Good evening and welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. With the All Ordinaries Index up over 0.5% last week, the question now is whether this marks the final push from the buyers in the short term or is a break to a new all-time high next. Stay tuned as we'll discuss our thoughts on that shortly. We'll also take a look at the Australian market, and for our main topic in tonight's show, we get into the ASX company results post-reporting season and identify some game-changing opportunities. First up, we'll share our hot stock tip for the week, so sit back and relax. Again, tonight is jam-packed as we have lots of emails to answer. We'll also take your phone calls and give you the answers to some of the important questions around the market. Tonight we're excited to share our thoughts on some great stocks like Transurban Group, Seven Group Holdings, Seek Limited, the Australian stock market and more, so get comfortable as we'll get into those soon. I'm Dale Gillam and I'm your host for tonight, and joining me are two of Wealth Within's team of highly experienced analysts and professional traders, Janine Cox and Philip Tortevsky. And together we're Australia's most trusted stock market educators. Good evening, team.
Welcome back. I almost want to give you a hug, but then I can't do that on TV, can I?
Well, you can, because everybody will see. It's not harassment. But my wife may not like it. How are you going, mate?
I'm good, yeah. Look, I'm back in the comfortable chair, so this is perfect.
Can I say I was sitting on my hotel bed watching the show the last few weeks and thinking I'm retiring now, because you don't need me. And Pedro said it last week. Basically, he kicked me off the show, didn't he?
He did a great
I said
job.
to him, don't speak too soon before we've got to get through the end of the show. But
Didn't happen. Well, anyway, as mentioned, we do get into the All Ordinaries Index. But first, let's take a look at this week's hot stock tip. Now, Phil, what have you got for us tonight?
Yeah, tonight I've got a good one. Charter Hall Group, stock code CHC. So let's get straight into it on your screen. Right now is the marketindex.com. And you'll see Charter Hall Group is involved in investments in property funds, development and funds management. It is in the real estate sector. No surprise there. Now some performance on this one. It's got a 2024 year-to-date performance of positive 21%, a one-year return of positive 37.5%. Now this versus the sector on a one-year basis, which is doing positive 18, so it's beating that. And it's also beating the ASX 200 on a one-year basis, which is performing at positive 26. It's got a market cap of over 6 billion there, almost 7 billion, and it is ranked within the top 100. So a stock that is known to most. Now, let's get into the good stuff, right? The charting, and let's open the monthly chart first to get things started. I want to start here and go big picture with this, and I guess to start things off, looking at this black rectangle level I've marked, it's quite obvious that it's such an important level for this stock, that $11, $12 mark. You can see that it's acted as a magnet for this stock, even dating back all the way to May 2007, providing some resistance there. And in more recent history, it's provided support for this stock as it's gone and found this, I guess, sidewaysy type basing pattern. But what's so interesting to me about Charter Hall right now is if we measure some of the falls that have also happened with this one of late, we've had the most recent long-term fall of about 60%, and that kind of coincides well with the two previous largest falls in the long-term uptrend, which have been about 65% here during that COVID period, and then we've got about 50-odd%. So it's well within the limits of what it has fallen. And to finish things off, it's how it's reacted. I mean, we always talk about how these stocks react once they do come out of these significant lows. So if we can just go back to the chart and have a quick look there for you. This is why we've got these green dots marked. You can see in the previous attempt where it got to this level, how quick the sellers were to come back and really get involved at the current level, giving you that indication that, hey, this isn't ready to get going higher. And obviously the stock fell away. But in the most recent price action, we had buyers eat up the price around $8, $9, a strong run up, and we've got this pullback here, which is about less than half or about half of the buyers. And obviously what's happened last month, Janine, is a huge run up, broken to new highs. I think this stock, there's a bit of resistance up around this, $15 mark, so be cautious of that. But I think it's turned the corner in the medium term.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it looks super bullish and looks like it could take off. But sometimes these stocks will trade within the range of the prior month's bar, so we could see a little bit of a pullback before it then moves up. What do you think?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, volatility-wise, it's such a strong month that it's happened this month alone. So definitely there is that possibility that it comes back to its normal type of movement. But I mean, you know, big picture, it's definitely looking good.
Well, it certainly looks good to me, guys, and I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up, so well done, Phil. But that is it for our weekly hot stock tip. Now, shortly we're going to get into our topic for tonight. But before we do that, right now is your opportunity to get involved in the show and have your questions answered. Now, we prioritise phone calls, so call now on 03 9290 9988, or you can text your question to the number on your screen. Now, the first caller into the show right now gets a free copy of my book, Accelerate Your Wealth. So pick up your phone and dial 03 9290 9988. Now, while you do that tonight, we'll give you our thoughts on the Australian stock market. So let's get into it.
On your screen right now is a chart of the All Ordinaries Index. Let's take a look. You can see there on the left-hand side actually is the All Ords, and we've had this really nice strong level, and since then we've seen the market break above that, test it twice. So we've had a pullback in April, bit of a sideways move above it, another test in August, but it's looking really resilient and I'm liking everything that I'm seeing here. But I thought today it might be interesting if we not only talk about the All Ords, but we also just sort of have a look at the another index on the market, which is the S&P ASX 50. Now, sometimes people talk about the XJO, they talk about the All Ordinaries, and it really depends on what end of the woods you come from, because if you're in big funds and you have a benchmark that's the XJO, then of course that's going to be the important one that you're talking about. But you know, I just like talking about the All Ords, just represents the whole market. And if you actually compared the XJO to the All Ords, there's very little difference in the movements that you see there. Occasionally you can sort of get an advantage by looking at the XJO over the XAO, because it might give you a clue technically as to what's going to happen. There's slight differences, but most of the time it's very similar. But if you look at another index like the S&P ASX 50, you'll see here a slightly different story, and you'll notice that this peak here back in February 2023 was actually right up there with the other highs that occurred back in 2021, 2022, whereas on the All Ords, it's actually lower. So telling you that the smaller or the lower end of the market actually wasn't as bullish in rebounding through that level. So that really tells a lot in my book, because it says not only was the decline actually less, but the rise back up was actually stronger relative to those prior highs, and could really bode well for the next move up as we come through with the bigger stocks looking like the most attractive ones. So you can even see that low here, this low here in October 2023 relative to the prior one, and do a comparison between the October 2023 low and the prior one. It just looks a lot healthier, don't you think, Phil?
Oh yeah, I mean, to me it's very crystal clear what's happening with the market. Clearly, if we just focus on the All Ords, we've got that 7,900 level that the market's been so strong in holding up. There's buyers there clearly, and you know, we've just come out of reporting season, and you know, the market's closing on the monthly high. We're about to come into the ex-dividend dates, and you know, September being you know, the worst performing month statistically on our market. But the way this is performing, I think September could actually break a historical trend and run up.
So, market up by the end of September or down? Give me your answer.
Up.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say up. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say that it's going to go the other way.
Okay, so we're going to break the trend. Instead of September being down, it's going to be up.
Do you
2
think the
thumbs
same?
up? Look, I'm agreeing with you too, but you're the experts for tonight. People can hear my thoughts on the Monday report on Talking Wealth, so when I get into that. But anyway, that is it for our thoughts on the Australian stock market. Now, before we get into the first email, remember to get your questions answered live on air. You will need to text or call into the show. You can also send your questions to info@wealthwithin.com.au, and we'll answer them in next week's show. Now, if you are subscribed on YouTube, if you are watching on YouTube, click the like button right now and hit that subscribe button. We do appreciate that. Now, let's get into our first email question. Now, what do you do when a stock has been trading sideways for 4 years? Well, Nick is asking about Transurban. He writes, "Hi team, could you take a look at Transurban? It has been stuck sideways for the past 4 years, but has recently broken a trend line on the monthly chart with solid support at $12.24. Looks like some resistance at 10% and then all-time high at 20%. Would love to hear your thoughts on this stock and the industrials sector." I'm going to go to you, Janine.
Well, look, on the stock, it's a strange one, isn't it? I mean, like you said, it's been volatile and trading sideways for all that time. And if we just take a look at the chart, you can see why it's really interesting. So I don't think I've seen a stock that's quite performed in this way. I mean, there are patterns that form on stocks, and often you can compare and think, yeah, that looks like another stock, but this just doesn't look like anything that I've seen before. So it's an odd one. We can see the highest point after the big pullback with the COVID low was here in November 2020, and yet we haven't had a high take that out since. It's just kept, sideways and very choppy and down. But look, that level there, and I've found it interesting that you're talking in exact numbers, 12.24. So when we're looking at support and resistance, we generally are looking at a number that's roughly around, it could be $12 is a mark, or 12.20 you might say, but you don't need to be that precise in this case, because as you can see, Transurban has come up and it's traded through levels before. It's traded below that 12.24. It's not a precise thing. It's a judgment call. There's a set of analysis that you have to do to come up with the most important levels, and then there's a judgment call making a decision about where to mark your line.
So where's it going, Janine? Up or down?
Direction at the moment is it's really anyone's guess, because even though it's broken through that trend line, that doesn't indicate that it's definitely going up. For me,
I think Phil's got a whole different ballgame on that.
I'll make it simple for you, Nick.
Really?
Let me just draw this line for you here. And clearly, the stock, you mentioned the stock's going sideways, and you were looking, is he in the stock? Did he mention?
No, he
hasn't mentioned that.
So typically one of three things can happen. Either the stock's going to continue sideways, if you just go back to the chart and have a look. It's either going to break on up or break down. But right now, given you're looking at it in this particular point, which is right in the middle of this sideways move, the answer's pretty simple. It's going to continue to range through these two levels until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And so that being the case, you're either going to have to find strategies to play that sideways type move, or just wait for it to break either way to give you that confirmation that, hey, it's actually going to start moving out of this sideways move. So I think, pretty.
I like your answer.
I do. I think it's been a long time. It's a consolidation pattern. It's real easy, which means to me, eventually it's going to shoot up through those levels. So just keep watching it, mate, and you should do okay with that. Anyway, we have a text from Ben and Ben says, "Hi team, it would be great to hear your thoughts on Paladin. I think there is possible room for growth, but I am cautious due to the continued downtrend. I would love to hear if it's worth monitoring for the medium to long term. Regards, Ben." Why don't you take this one, Phil?
All right, sure. So on your screen right now is the chart of Paladin to have a look for you now. Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely falling. And again, there are a few things that are going on right now with this stock. One, it's great that you're looking at it in terms of identifying, hey, potentially that, stocks that do fall at some point, they're going to find support, right? And moves do get extended. So that's a bonus. But at the end of the day, it's all about trading on confirmation. And I mean, if we just zoom the chart out, obviously the stock's coming out of that huge fall, which actually is quite nice to me. I mean, it's coming out of that all-time high through there, and we're seeing that phases that this stock's going through in its life cycle, down, finding this, really nice accumulative type phase. So there is one train of thought that this stock is moving into that expansion type move in the long run. But hey, once it's doing these kinds of movements, you don't want to catch falling knives. You wait for confirmation of that pullback. Where that confirmation may be, I'll just mark some levels on a chart for you to put some perspective on. If we just go back to the chart, please. So we're looking at potentially the famous momentum line, Janine, that you mentioned. So maybe somewhere through here, or even where price found agreements through this big level around $7, $8. There are potentials where the stock may fall, but again, you can't say it highly enough. You've got to wait for that confirmation.
Well, you do, but I mean, it is looking great compared to what it came from $90 down to nearly zero. So it's the last year or two has been looking really good. And I'll just get some comments from We're not even going to talk with Janine about Paladin, okay? So ignore Janine Ben. She doesn't equate in here.
She was even trying to move my
I
mouse.
like it. I like it. I think it's looking really, really good, and I think Phil's on the money. It should find some support soon and start to take off, but don't jump in early because you could be catching a falling knife anyway. Now, John's concerned about Min, and he says, I'm writing as a concerned investor regarding the recent decline in mineral resources. Firstly, my position with Min is long-term. However, recently it has been subjected to significant loss. Are you able to provide insights into any recent developments, market conditions, or company-specific issues that might be influencing the share price? Understanding this situation will help me make informed decisions regarding my investment. I appreciate your transparency and assistance in this matter. Janine.
Look, it's never pretty when a stock is, absolutely bagged, by the market, and it's sold off so heavily, and the stock is in a downtrend, a serious downtrend. It's a guessing game for people who have no technical knowledge to actually work out where it's going to stop. So we actually have a reasonable idea about where it might stop. It's just then a waiting game to then determine, when you're going to buy.
But this, I know I'm not going. I want you to keep going. But is this one of those big, strong signals why you should never hold things long term?
It is. If we just look at the chart, you can see there, it was beautiful. The way that it was unfolding was magical, but every stock has a phase where it will go down. Look at BHP, if we think back to BHP falling from 2011 to 2016. Don't assume that the banks are going to keep going always, because they all are part of a pattern and a cycle. Just back to the chart again, you can see there on the screen there, we've got what happened with this stock. Well, there were falling earnings, and the most recent net profit said it was down 79% from financial year 23. Dividend suspension, that's never good for any stock to come out to the market and say we're suspending our dividend. You may as well get the mallet out, like Kramer does. What's his name?
I don't watch this Seinfeld.
Jim Cramer.
No, not Jim Cramer.
Seinfeld. Jim Cramer.
Jim Cramer. Get the mallet out and actually smash the shares to smithereen, because that's basically what's happened on this chart here. Iron ore and lithium prices are falling, so everything has gone against it. But there will be silver lining at the end of all of this. It's just a question of timing. So I would stay with these sort of stocks, because once a stock has trended beautifully as it has in the past, down the track at some point it will resume to that sort of movement again, but it's just a question of when. So generally, when a stock's doing this, we just mark it in the workbook. We just wouldn't look at it until it's ticked certain boxes.
So what is John going to do? I mean, he's a long-term investor.
Look at different
stocks. Right now,
stocks.
there's a huge problem with opportunity cost, because his money's in a stock going down.
Well,
and
look,
it could be going in. There's so many stocks going up at the moment that could be having his money.
well, look, I mean, if he hasn't sold it at this point, is it drawing the line in the sand? That's really all you can do, and say, well, how much are you willing to risk on a stock like this? I mean, I could see it potentially coming down into this zone here of support. So in 2018, we saw this big sideways move unfold for the stock. The risk is that it pulls back to here. In saying that, we could also see it find support somewhere where it is as well.
But must you want to lose, though?
Yeah.
Do you want to say something, Phil?
I mean, when you get clear examples of this, like clearly the stock, there are fundamental reasons why it's falling. It's not just falling based on sentiment or speculation. So right now the company is really struggling, and for that to change, there's going to have to be a fundamental change in the company. When that will be, who knows? And I'm with you. Clearly there were plenty of opportunities to get out of this stock well before what's happened in the past 3 months. And now really it's making that decision, because you could be sitting in here for the next 3, 4, 5 years in the stock and with it falling or going sideways until maybe that catalyst were to come through that the company has fixed itself up. So it's your choice. Do you want to be sitting there? For me personally, I'd be drawing a very clear line in the sand, getting out what I can and putting it in a stock that's actually going to make me money.
Yeah, I would have been out a long time ago. John, you just got to make that decision for yourself. But if you haven't read my first book, How to Beat the Managed Funds by 20%, you need to get on our website and get it. I'm giving the book to you. You just got to pay the shipping for it. That's all you got to do. So we give that book away for free, and all you got to do is pay the shipping. Get it. There's some real basic rules in there that you can use, and it would have kept you or had you avoiding this whole downward move on Min, and you'd have more money in the bank. but more than that, you'd have more money going into stocks that are going up rather than sitting on one that's going down. But anyway, that is our take on Min. Now it's time to buckle up as we dive into the aftermath of the reporting season. Now we're going to break down which companies knocked it out of the park and which ones fell short, and most importantly, how you can seize the opportunities created. Now there's a lot to unpack, so let's get straight into it. Reporting season is always full of surprises, so before we dive into the stocks, I want to start with a professional trader's perspective on what matters most during this period. I'm going to go to you, Janine.
Well, first off, knowing when exactly reporting season occurs is important. Reporting season takes place twice a year. Full year results are published in August and half year results are in February. Now, it's really important, isn't it, that people actually are prepared for that they mark their charts, that they know exactly when these dates are, and they've got their rules ready, just to be prepared, because anything can happen. You can have situations where you're expecting the stock to rise because you've heard something about the share, and then all of a sudden it goes and does the opposite.
Okay.
So there are all sorts of strange things that happen in reporting season. So be prepared is really the point I want to make.
Be a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout or a Person Scout, or however we say the Scouts nowadays. I don't really know, but all great points. So thanks for that. Now I want to discuss something we often see during reporting season. This is where a company reports well and surpasses analyst forecasts, yet the share price still takes a hit. Now this is where you hear those famous words, "What the?" We also get reports worse than forecast and the share price goes up. So how about we explain why these what the moments happen, Janine?
Yeah, well, this is a really annoying thing and frustrating thing for, look, it's not just you guys out there, it's for us as well. No. When we have a sort of expectation, but expectations can be incorrect.
But you use 4-letter words instead of what the.
I don't think so. But, so it's all about the expectations out there. So analysts make a prediction, they put up their forecast, there's a consensus, but sometimes they get it wrong. That's just as simple as it is.
Again, I hate to say it, but I completely agree with you, Janine. Now, what I find interesting is how these analyst forecasts attempt to predict earnings year after year. So let's now take a look at this table from Evidence Investor, which highlights analyst forecasts versus actual results from 1997 to 2021. Now you can see the analysts not only consistently overshot actual outcomes, but the errors grew larger the further out the forecast. With those kinds of numbers, the question really comes down to how much weight should you place on analyst forecasts during earnings seasons, and how much influence should they have on your trading decisions? I'm going to go to you with this one, Phil.
Well, again, quite basic, zero for me. And the reason for that is obviously analyst forecasts, we know from statistics, they're wrong about 50% of the time. At the end of the day, they are just forecasts. So, things change. And in terms of trading, you're looking to capture, I guess, things that are concrete and that are solid, right? So you could have, if you're looking at earnings, you could look at, let's just say, earnings year on year that are actually happening, and see if a company's making earnings from year on year. You can go, okay, well, there's something there fundamentally, but the chart will tell you everything. So,
the analysts aren't looking at real data. Until the real data comes out, they're just making guesses of what the real data is likely to be. So the chart will tell you everything anyway. But all right, we're just out of reporting season, so let's get into the best and worst performers to see where the opportunities lie. Now, I'm going to let you take this away, Phil.
All right, sure. So let's start off with, I guess, the darling of the reporting season, which was WiseTech Limited or WiseTech Group. But anyway, on your screen right now is WiseTech. Now, this one here, it's quite interesting because, and what we're going to do as we go through each chart, we'll show you some that really beat their estimated EPS. So we're measuring it on the EPS earnings per share. Yep. So analysts forecast, earnings per share to be a certain amount, and then the calculations get done on what the earnings are and that whole process, and you get the actual number. So going back to the chart, you'll see WiseTech surprised by 6%, which is not, a great deal, but have a look at what the chart did. I mean, the market really was happy about that result, a 6% increase, and the share price on reporting week went up 31% in 1 week. Now,
it's all in the forecast, isn't it? It doesn't matter about what's happening right now. It's the forecast that the market's hanging out for.
Well, I mean, this was the result because once the result came in, the buyers kept buying it up, and you know, it's gone up 2 weeks after that. It's broken to a new all-time high. This is a stock that, you know, is literally ripping higher and higher month after month. And I mean, with this company, obviously the earnings have been increasing year on year, so there is a fundamental story behind it. But it's real interesting that, you know, when you start to see some of the huge performers and or big surprises out there and the chart does nothing, it's like, well, hey, hang on, should I just be following the chart, or do I need to be worrying about these earnings? Because you know, just looking at the chart alone, if we just go on the weekly chart here, you know, there's real nice opportunity all throughout this period. All you needed to do was apply a few simple metrics, like things like, you know, your momentum line through there. You've got a nice pullback that the stock's giving you a really strong reversal bar there, giving you indication that, hey, you know, it's probably going to report well, being bought up a week before reporting. So there are a lot of things going, just from a technical perspective alone, that you would be buying this stock.
Depending on where you had that line, a lot of traders would have been out there on a trend line, and other rules would have taken them out potentially. So not everybody would have been cheering hurrah for that big rise because they may have exited.
Well, yeah, potentially. I mean, that could be the case too. But again, it speaks to the point about reporting season, right?
You just never know which way it's going to go, do you?
Exactly.
Well, it depends on your strategy, absolutely. So I'm sure you've got more stocks for us to have a look at.
Oh, yes. So next we have Lynas Rare Earths. Now, again, another stock that is really looking very well. So let's go to the chart and have a look there for you. Estimated earnings per share were 3 cents. It actually came in at 5 cents, so it surprised by 73%. Now you'll see.
Holy moly.
And it looks amazing. The chart looks fantastic.
How did they get it that wrong?
Well, what's interesting about this one, Dale, is you have a look at the chart, right, and it reported on the 28th of August. Have a look at the week before.
And there's no such thing as insider knowledge.
No, that, you know, that's just very good speculation, I guess.
Yes.
So isn't that reportable then? Like, don't they have to report to the market?
ASIC has such a trouble catching this sort of stuff because it's intangible. Because it could be a Chinese whisper type thing. You know, how do you catch it? And then, you know, very few people ever get caught for insider trading, but that stinks, doesn't it? You know, and
it's
you know
very
that
interesting.
when there's smoke, there's obviously
a big
a
rise
fire
like
somewhere.
that. What percentage was it? Let's just have a look.
The thing that was, I guess, also speaking to this chart, what's quite interesting is that, you know, there was reason, if you look at, as Janine's marking that level, you know, really the stock since June 2024, it had 3 attempts at $5.90. You saw one attempt there, a second attempt, then a third attempt. So there was definite confirmation in terms of price saying, hey, you know what, we might be finding a significant low here, and then it's gone on with it. So from that perspective, but I mean, you know, strong earnings, surprised the market, and technically the stock looks fantastic. What do you think?
Doesn't it? I just like the fact, looking at the monthly chart, how it's actually making that higher low there. So it's bottomed out here, now we've got the higher low coming through. Yeah, it looks nice, doesn't it?
So my question on Lynas is it going to continue to go? Because in the bigger scheme of things, whilst that big move was there before it actually announced, is it going to keep going up?
That's the $1 million question, right? And I mean, with I guess a nice earnings, let's say, or a nice surprise at the tail or behind it. So you've got fundamentals supporting the stock right now, and to me, technically, I mean, that's the most important thing.
But isn't that an interesting question? Because that's a question that, like, everybody asks about every single stock that they look at. Is the stock going to go up? But I mean, that's a really black and white question, and trading in the market isn't black and white. You go into a stock stacking everything you can in its favour, but sometimes the stock will go the other way.
None of you are going to answer my question.
Well, I'll give you an answer. Let's go back to
I'm trying to help everybody watching.
We
you guys are avoiding the question.
We think the probability is high for Lynas to go up.
Yeah, this was my hot stock tip not long ago, a few months ago, and you know, the fact that it's finding this really strong base, if we just go back to the chart around that $5, $6 level, to me, a nice little break above, as it's looking to do real soon through these $7.60 levels. If it can get through this, then I think it's definitely turning the corner in the medium term, and with the volatility that this stock shows, I think it can rip through to those, you know, $11 very quick.
All right, I'll let you go to the next stock now. I'm happy.
All right. Next one is 7 Group Holding. Now, another interesting case, obviously reported, estimated was 0.77, EPS reported 1.12, so 45% surprise. And I mean, you know, market ate it up, obviously, nice strong bar through there. And it's continued higher, which is nice. You know, the next 2-3 weeks have been rising with that nice news. And I think, you know, obviously the next target would be this previous high through here. But I mean, given the way this stock's performed, if it can get through the all-time high, then it's blue skies above.
Yeah, I think wait for the all-time high as well. There's a bit of a gap there, I think, on the weekly chart. Might even come back and do some consolidating temporarily. Sometimes after reporting season, when the fanfare's all over, some stocks just consolidate, whereas others continue to move on. So at the moment, it hasn't really moved. You know, it's moved up a little bit from that level, but the week that it moved up was the week of reporting. It's done most of its heavy lifting then.
I know a lot of, can I say, institutions use the reporting season to try and rape and pillage in the market, if I can say that, if you know what I mean, and you know, try and entice people on a good report. They push it harder to get the retail investors to go in, and then they just sell out and take a bit of a profit on things. You know, they overbuy their quantity and then they then sell some of that to the retail
Well, that's
investors.
their job, isn't it?
Well, it is, but you know, the charts don't lie, do they?
No, they don't. And I mean, you know, just purely from a technical perspective, looking at this stock, it's clearly, as Janine said, the all-time high is a level that, hey, watch out, because that could be the fact that, as you just said, speculations happen, most of the retail, if you will, buying the good news, and then you get a nice little clean out before the next leg up.
It does look nice though, long term, just looking at the way that it's unfolded. I mean, how many stocks have we looked at where we think, oh, it might top out, and we see this sort of consolidation, the stock just keeps shooting higher? There's nothing to say that it couldn't do that.
Well, the real answer is in the sellers here.
It looks bullish still.
Yeah, you just look through the red here. You can see as stocks get higher and higher, generally they slow down, you know, in their legs as they're going. And this one's not doing that. The red, if you will, the sellers through there, literally are, again, less than half of that previous move up. And that's the move that's ran through to the all-time high. And again, we're seeing green with extended volatility. So I don't think the buyers are going anywhere.
All right, so let's show them some more stocks, okay?
All right, so...
I know you've got plenty.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit. Next up, Janine, you want to pick up on this one, Aurora?
Yeah, look, this was interesting because in reporting season, I mean, it was down at the, you know, the dark depths of goodness knows where, going nowhere. And then all of a sudden it shot up through reporting, had a great earning, estimated EPS 0.07, actual EPS 0.09, so a surprise of plus 33%. So obviously the market liked it. Since then though, as we were talking about before, this one's not continued on from the end of that week. It's just stayed there, but hey, that was, you're not going to scoff at that. But it's not a time to buy. You know, just forget about when you see the reporting season, they have a great result, look at the chart, see if there are any rules. And at the moment, there's not enough here. This could just be a turning point, like what we saw back. Now, let's just expand that monthly chart so we can see. It could be just one of these turns that we're seeing. It could also do a complete about face and fall the other way. We don't know yet. There's no confirmation. That's really the point. So I'd be waiting for something more like this to see a sort of retest of that low or a trend line or something. We need something additional on that monthly chart.
Wow, this is just showing us how volatile it can be at reporting season, can't it?
Oh,
You got
yeah.
anything to say on this, or do you want to go to the next stock?
We can go to the next one. I think
Great.
Janine's covered it quite well.
The next one is an interesting one. This is actually Whitehaven Coal, which is often talked a lot about. You can see there on that weekly chart how the week, 22nd of August was reporting. It actually, obviously the market didn't like it.
It reported
fell.
well. That's the thing with this one. It beat estimations and fell.
But the forecast, you know, that's the other part. So we hear the results, but we don't always hear the forecast in the results.
Surprised by
So that's why
30%, and it
you have to
fell.
keep reading. You can't just look at the financial results. You've got to keep reading what they're, you know, expecting in the future and what the analysts are saying about that. So estimated EPS 0.36, actual EPS 0.47, a surprise of plus 30%. Yeah, like Phil said, you're not going to scoff at that, and yet right now it looks like, if I can just draw a horizontal line, it looks like it's probably going to end up somewhere down here. That's just a rough guess. If it takes out that low, then I'll be thinking that March 2024 low, it's not going to be good for it short term, and just wait for the recovery after that.
I'm sure there's people sitting there watching this going, what the? How could it actually beat estimates and fall?
Well, it's interesting because, I mean, at the end of the day, there's so many estimates out there. This is one specific one that we've got, but, you know, there'll be, you know, Morningstar might have one, and other analysts or whoever might have different estimates. And then the next part of it is how you digest the actual information, as Janine said, once you dig through the numbers and the balance sheets and really what's going on with the company, and then you project that out forward and go, hey, is this really a good result or isn't it? And then, as you mentioned as well on top, it's the speculation that goes along this period because clearly there's volume around this time. So,
and I mean, it wasn't performing great beforehand, even though it was going up. It was really sort of consolidating, trying to push higher, but really not getting anywhere. Sometimes, maybe it's had its run for now. We had this huge rise prior, so it's already been factored in.
Oh, let's move on.
All
I'm
right.
sick of this stock.
All right, next we've got IGO Limited. Now, this one was, again, another interesting story. Estimated EPS was negative 0.4, actual was negative 0.18. So it was a negative 365% surprise for the market. So you'd think this one would drop out of bed, right? But hey, it's actually done nothing this week. I mean, it's a slight fall, still within the range of the previous week. So again, another example of, worse news than expected.
Was it that we were in, sort of reasonably solid market sentiment at the moment in general? So it's not super bearish at the moment. So did that help,
Well, I mean, when you look at the chart of IGO, you can see that regardless of the market, obviously our market's been running up for the past, 4 or 5 months, and this stock's clearly been doing the opposite.
What I'm saying is there are situations sometimes in reporting season, we've seen it plenty of times before, where the market is sort of buoyant and the reporting doesn't come out, as bad as what we thought it was, but it's still not that great, and yet stocks continue to go up,
Yeah, but as human beings, we're always naturally more optimistic than pessimistic.
Well, that's why there's so much more to this than just the fundamentals.
That's an important point that you just said, because really, when you look at a chart and you compare this stuff, it speaks so much to the fact that how superior, right? Looking at price information as a leading tool to give you that information that, hey, should I be getting involved around this time? Is the stock really looking healthy or is it looking sick? And obviously IGO, you don't need to worry about reporting season. Just one look at the chart, you can see since June 2023, the stock's in free fall and continuously falling even May 2024. But that said, I don't mind the fact that it is coming into this huge sideways move here. So potentially right now it is a time to watch the stock. Again, you must wait for confirmation.
All right, let's do another one.
All right.
Yeah, agreed.
So,
IPL.
you want to take this one, Janine?
Inside Tech Pivot. This is an interesting stock. Just look at before we go into all the EPS, just look at that sideways consolidation. I think we've had people call up about this or ring in an email about this on the show before, and for good reason, because it's got this huge level here, which just makes it an opportunity. Nice consolidation. We've had this huge consolidation over recent months. Now, the estimated EPS was 0.07. The actual EPS was minus 0.15. So the surprise was minus 325%, and yet the stock's gone up.
So could this be sort of like Buffett talks about buying doom, selling boom? You go for the ones that dramatically underperform the analyst forecasts and go, these could be the buys.
Yeah, but you don't just buy them, you just sit and wait.
I wasn't suggesting that, but put them on your watch list.
You read my mind, yeah, because I mean, when a stock comes out with supposedly real negative news, and yet the price is doing the opposite, hey. That's
telling you something.
It's really telling you something.
And there are situations too when the market falls on news around reporting season. Stocks that actually manage to hold up better than other stocks might actually be giving you a clue as well.
Have we got another one?
Yes, we sure do. All right, next we've got Pilbara Minerals. Now, another one that obviously reported worse than estimate. Actual was 0.1, estimate was 0.2. So a 48% surprise to the downside. And this one was quite interesting because I think, just by looking at the price chart and kind of dissecting what's happening, clearly there's been negative sentiment through this stock since, January 2023. But to me, the way this chart held up sideways, there was probably a bit of indecision waiting to see what's going to happen with this one moving forward. Yeah. Negative sentiments come in, and clearly this week it's gapped down, starting to fall further. So I think probably another resumption of the downtrend, potentially down to these levels around $2.30, $2.40. But I mean, it doesn't look too healthy, does it?
I think even if it met analyst expectations, it'd probably still fall away, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's being sold off.
It's one of those sorts of stocks, the way it looks like it. But how important is it that we look at these figures on these stocks, and how do you, as analysts, we're like, okay, if something goes, if they beat expectations by 10%, what kind of factor that can it do affect the share price? Is it going to affect it 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 or 4-to-1? But what you've just shown us is you can't do that. It's no rhyme or reason. You had massive gains and massive losses, or massive over and underperformance, and it doesn't correlate to whether it's positive or negative share price.
Well, what charting or what looking at charts tell you is when, and fundamentals don't tell you when. That's the difference, because I mean, you know, I've even played with working out the Warren Buffett figure or the valuation figure, the Jeremy Grantham, or there was he might be an actor, but there's other valuation figures that, you know, you play with and you go, okay, well, based on what the stock is now and based on the EPS, this is what the share price should be, or what have you, right? And it never really adds up. At the end of the day, maybe it will get there in 5, 10, 3 years' time, who knows? But your job as an investor or a trader is to make money, right? At the end of the day, that's the main thing. So how are you supposed to do that if you're not following the thing that is supposed to make you the money?
Well, that's correct. And I mean, you know, that's what, like we were talking about with John holding the stock while it was falling. You know, it's about direction straight away. Everybody you ask, you say, when you buy a stock, do you want it to go up or down? And they all go up, but they don't always go up, and they don't go up forever. They do have periods of time when they go down, and that's when you need to get out of it, because we need to have our money go in the right direction, not the wrong direction. And, you know, what I'm seeing from what you've been presenting is, how do you predict that with what they're doing with these announcements? So you're better off looking at the price charts, which is you're talking about and what you've been talking about. Look at the charts, and then just know around reporting season there's going to be some volatility on any stock that you own.
And then make a choice. Are you going to be in, or are you going to stay out?
So how can people weather that? If you want to give me 10 seconds each on how you can weather that.
I would say, look, the key thing is to actually decide how you're going to manage your risk through that. That's the most important thing. If you've got shares already in your portfolio, it's about just making sure that your rules are up to date and you've reviewed your analysis and you're all ready to go just in case it does fall or rise. In the case of a buying opportunity, being ready for that as well. And then also thinking about the fact that if stocks gap up or they go up really strongly and you've got buy rules there and you're ready to go, how far up, if it goes up 5 to 10%, is it still a buy? Don't sort of like think about it. I've had so many people send me emails about this sort of thing over time saying, oh, can I still buy it? It's gone up 5%. You know, be prepared for that.
You don't have 10 seconds
well,
anymore.
that was a long 10 seconds I was about to say, but I said it perfectly. At the end of the day, the most important thing when you are going to put your money in the market is become a good risk manager. You know, really know how to protect your money, and as Janine said, when the volatility is going to increase during these periods that you know, then factor that in your strategy. That's the best advice, I think.
Well, thanks for that, Janine and Phil. We very much appreciate it. Now stay with us, as we'll be right back after this short break. This week on Talking Wealth, learn how to turn your book into a smart investment.
What you should be doing is introducing a great book. You should get it out there into the right hands, then watch the ROI come back.
Want to boost your investment skills? Join Chris Ball as he shares key strategies for a strong, diversified portfolio.
Diversified portfolios, especially within wealth management, is important because it helps us control the volatility in the portfolio, you know, to ensure that the volatility within the portfolio matches the client's attitude.
Debt, savings, income, wealth. Get clear on the difference with expert Dr. Catherine Gilstein.
A lot of people struggle understanding the basics of what money is first. Money is a medium of exchange. Money is a unit of account. Money is a store of value.
Get your free 7-day trial now to watch this and more.
Only on Talking Wealth.
Moving on, if you want to talk about a stock or ask a question, pick up your phone right now and give us a call on 039290 9988. That's 03 for Melbourne, 92909988, or you can text the number on your screen. Now, whilst we wait for your call, let's get into our next email. Now, did I get the right entry on a stock is a common question that we get asked. And Sean writes, love the show, purchased Macquarie for $199 on the 9th of August when a little chicken said the sky was falling and panic gripped the markets across the world. Since then, it has moved up. Was that a good entry point? What are your thoughts on future price projections? And do you believe it's a good company to invest for the medium to long term? It has a beautiful long-term monthly graph. I think I'm going to go to Janine for this one.
Oh, I absolutely love the stock choice.
Yep.
And I wasn't quite sure when I read your email whether you were really quite proud of your decision. I think you were, and I think you rightly should be. It's a good choice. Macquarie, and $199. Depends on the, what was the date that he said he bought it? Can you remember?
9th of August.
The
so
9th of
literally
August.
there on
The 9th of August. So it was actually falling at the time. So it might have been a bit of FOMO thinking.
Well, it's always a bit of a concern when someone asks, did I buy? Was it a good buy, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and if I look at that and I go, well, you don't have good rules. If you're asking if that was a good buy, you should know it's a good buy. So that implies to me you don't
But
have
don't
good
stocks
rules.
like this sort of weather that sort of idea of whether you need good rules or not? Because I mean, look at the chart.
But
It's a long-term bullish. It's going up.
Is
But
this
you want to be
repeatable?
consistent, yeah.
It's about being good trader is about being consistent.
Yep.
So your buy's got to be right.
But what if
and
it's long-term? Then it doesn't matter, does it?
if it's what do you mean? Of course it does.
You say
always
buy the top 20,
Can I go to the
long
chart
term?
with you, Phil?
hold it
Yes.
long-term.
Yeah,
Can you go to the chart?
Let's get to the chart and have a look at some projections for you. But yeah, look, it's interesting. Obviously, great stock, but yeah, I'm with you, Dale. I mean, you don't want to be making those questionable buys too much because
Of course,
you know.
he bought it because it had fallen in price. He was
Yeah.
buying it because it's cheap.
No. Yeah.
But it could have kept falling.
Yes, exactly. And the rules is what's going to keep you safe and consistent. That's the most important thing. But that being said, you can give yourself a pat on the back on this one because it's broken through to a new all-time high. Right now, and we know Macquarie is a strong stock. Financials is flying at the moment. It's a bit of a no-brainer. Right now, it's just about managing that risk. If you didn't have a strategy on the way in, I'm not sure whether you've got one on the way out, but if you don't, now definitely is the time that you start working on a strategy on the way out. Find some solid rules and stick to them.
Look, I'm sorry, I can't condone this kind of a trade because it leads him. When people do a mistake like that, then it goes right, and Macquarie picked the right stock, which you just said.
Oh, yeah.
You know, if you do that and you go, oh, I got it right, then you're going to try and do it the next time, and then the next time, and one of them's going to bite you on the bum big time.
Bad habits.
Bad habit. And so I can't, it's like when we talk to traders and we're mentoring traders and they go, oh, I made this money on a trade, but we go, did you trade well?
Yeah, you can't condone what the
And I can't
practice.
condone the behaviour, and I think it's great he's made money, but he's made money by accident, not by good trading. Good trading is following rules
Yeah.
every single
Yeah,
time.
so if it was a peak in the market and he's bought it on the dip and then it peaks just after that, it could be a big decline after that's what you're
It
saying.
could be. And I mean, I've had traders, you know, and you guys have, when you're mentoring our students as well, we've all said the ones that have lost money, but they've traded well, meaning they've followed rules, that's a great trade, even though they've lost money. But we also slap them on the wrist when they trade poorly because they haven't followed rules and made money. But hopefully you take that to heart. Now we've got a text from Paula. And Paula says, good evening and thank you for a great show. I entered Polynovo mid-August at $2.55 yesterday. The price came close to triggering my stop loss. I'm not sure if I should increase my stop loss to 15% considering it is a volatile stock. I would appreciate your thoughts on whether this is just a pullback or the start of a downtrend. Paula, I'm going to give you another go, Janine.
Well, that's a really good question. And look, just by looking at the chart here, I'll just go over to the charts. We can see that as the stock rose up, trend line's actually often a really good way to gauge where the stock's going in the direction. So it's actually dipped below that line as part of this move back, but it's closed right back on the top of the bar so far. So I'd just be watching that really closely. But I think a really good way to think about this is if all of a sudden you're looking at a stock and it reverses and goes back below the low of a bar when it's gone below a line, that is often a signal that it's going to keep falling. So, you know, it fell through, turned around, rose strongly, but if the sellers come back in, then they may actually have control of the stock.
But I mean, are you, you know, the interesting thing for me was the question about, you know, should I change my stop loss mid-trade? And it just speaks to, again, to the same question we were dealing with just before, trying to change a strategy mid-trade just because it's not working out how you want it, it's bad habits.
Well, especially you get that with traders and they go, oh, my stop loss is 10% and it's just
give it a bit more.
It's at my stop loss, it's at 10%. Oh, I'm going to make it 15% now, and then it gets to 14%. Oh, I'll make it 17 or 18% now.
But they can go the other way,
They
like
can
just
go-
start with a 15% stop loss and then work out, you know,
You
'cause
work that
sometimes-
out. I mean, you're the back testing queen.
Yeah.
So when you go into trading, which is what you were getting at, it's like you know your stop loss because you've worked it out and they've tested it
Yep.
to make it work. So if you've tested it, don't change it. But if you haven't tested it, you know, at the moment, I don't necessarily think it looks like it's going to keep falling, but it could. Depends on where it finishes end of this week.
Yeah.
I'd
finishes
also
high.
want to understand why a 10% stop loss. Is it?
Well, she didn't say that,
Yeah.
but she says, I'll move it to 15. I'm just speculating that she's done 10, but if it closes high this week, I think you're going to be okay. But if it closes low, I'm with Janine. You might not get at it. But anyway, we do have a caller on the line. Welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Who have I got on the line?
Hi Dale, how are you today?
Good. What's your name?
My name is Brijesh.
Brajesh, thanks for calling in. What's your question for us?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Hi Dale. Obviously,
pleasure,
hi Janine
mate.
and Phil. How are you? The question is for today is BES, Baura Solution Limited.
Yep.
Obviously, it's about the long-term momentum line, down long-term momentum line. It's short and medium-term trend up. Just take an entry on 131 on a pattern, and just obviously thinking had a bit of resistance on 150. And obviously, once it's clear, it has a long-term uptrend as well. So what's your thought on that? Looking at target, as you say, you don't like target, but I was looking around 50% of all-time highs.
Okay. So did I hear that you bought it around 130 or you're looking to buy around 130?
131, yes, please.
So you haven't got it yet?
2 weeks ago, 131, yep.
Oh, so you actually did buy it. Okay, fantastic.
Yes, and obviously, we have a chat today is about earnings, and I saw it's a positive earning, but again, I'm just don't look at the earning. I was just going to chart as
Perfect.
we learned. Yeah. So
Sounds like you've done a hell of a lot of good work there, Bravesh, so I really congratulate on that. But then I haven't
Rakesh.
looked at the chart. That's what Phil and Janine are going to do. So thanks for calling in.
It was Brakesh.
I think it was Bravesh.
Brakesh.
Brakesh? No, I think it was Bravesh.
Was it?
But he can
We
tell us.
apologise if we've actually pronounced that
He can email us
incorrectly.
and tell us exactly whether I got it right or not.
Well, what's interesting, as you just said, I mean, he could very easily be sitting here, to be honest. Everything he's done in terms of the work is ticking all the boxes. Looking at a stock, it's broken. Now that momentum line word's caught on, right? Broken through the momentum line long term. Obviously, let's just bring up the monthly chart here. Let's go to the weekly chart because the monthly chart doesn't like us for some reason. But so obviously the stock, and it's typical. You sometimes see that with these new stocks come out listed through here, had that speculation run up, and then they generally get down below the float price, and now starting to make its secondary move. Some big volume coming through with the all-time low, and you're seeing that higher base. We always talk about stocks when they're going to make these huge support levels or significant lows. You need to see what happens next. It's the second and the third and the fourth leg which are going to show you how strong this move is or whether it's got legs. And right now, I tend to agree, short to medium term, let's say, it's had a nice pullback. It's starting to climb back up. If it can get through this $1.50 level, then you've got a lot more confirmation that this move's got legs in it. And then, if it gets some steam, it could get up to these $3 levels in the longer term. But right now, it's at a critical level. It needs to keep going higher for me to really confirm that the buyers.
So you're suggesting maybe he bought in a little bit early, or
potentially?
Yeah. What do you think, Janine?
Depending on the play.
Look, I like it.
Yeah. I mean, it does look good. It looks better than what it has
Very
been.
much.
Yes.
So.
And this is where it's going to be the safe trade anyway. So you're going to sneeze again anyway. All right, I'm going to move on. We do have a caller on the line. Welcome to the Australian Stock Market Show. Who have I got on the line?
Oh, hi Tim, my name's Chris here.
Well, welcome to the show, Chris. What's your question for us tonight?
Thanks very much. Hey, listen, this being a live show, would you mind if I took us back to the WiseTech chart? Because I was picking up on a point that the team made, about predicting the uptrend following the earnings season. And full disclosure, I've just completed the diploma course. And I'm looking at the weekly chart and I'm thinking I can't see any signal that would have hinted to that there would be an uptick. So, in that particular case, do I sit there and do nothing and watch the price go up, or have I missed something?
Yep. No, that's fine. So you're talking about whether you could predict it before the announcement?
Yeah, because with some of the signals that we talk about in the course, I couldn't see any of them on the weekly trend line, on the weekly chart.
Yeah, sometimes you don't and sometimes you do, but I'm going to hand it over to the guys because sometimes we just put it down to, well, that's just trading the market.
Well, that's reporting season, isn't it?
Well, that's just reporting season. But thanks for your call, Chris. Do you want to make comments, guys?
Yeah, sure. I mean, let's go back to the chart. I think that's the best way to look at this one for you, Chris, because I mean, looking at it, you've got to put, I guess, the whole picture in perspective first. So when you look at the monthly chart, obviously the stock's trading at an all-time high. And to me, the more important question is, okay, one thing you're looking for rules, but so you're looking at a weekly chart, potentially you're looking for something like, medium-term type strategies. Now you're trying to apply a medium-term type strategy to a period which is the highest volatility on the market. So to me, there's no surprise why you're not going to get rules in place, because you can clearly see with the volatility, price will move much faster than the time taken for it to provide you that really nice rules and structure. More than anything in terms of price.
But also, like on the monthly chart here, we had a bit of a dip just prior, but if it depends on the time frame you're trading. So if you're trading this more longer term, medium to longer term, you may not have actually been triggered out of a position, but trading on the weekly chart, and I guess that's the difference. Some stocks, if you look at them, you will get more trades in and out of the market, and others you won't. You'll be able to stay in longer. So, I mean, how to predict it? As soon as you get confirmation, that's the thing. You're not going to know when reporting season happens. The stock can just take off, and well, after the fact, don't you?
Here's a tip for him: if you are looking to get involved during reporting season, the volatility is increasing, then maybe, as you said, go to a different time frame, because on potentially a lower time frame, there are opportunities there to get involved. But that comes with a caveat: the lower time frame you go, the higher the risk and the more potential for trading losses. But at the end of the day, like you said, I mean, you're going to get setups in trading, whether it's not on WiseTech, it's going to be on something else. At the end of the day, it's about following your rules, as you said, and looking at it. But using simple price analysis as well, I mean, looking at this particular bar through here, this is a very, very clear signal to say, hey, this market doesn't want to go lower.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously there's a consolidation sort of pattern there, but again, what are your rules that you're going to set around that, whether you plonk those in, knowing it's reporting season? Do you just set a buy in at a certain level, predetermined level, before the announcement, and if it goes up, you get taken? Or do you just go, well, hey, this is, reporting
Trading's
season,
about everything
volatility, I don't know that's coming in, so if it happens, it happens, and I'll go, okay, I'll wear that.
Well, trading's about everything, isn't it? And I mean, I would have even looked at the sector at the time. So, when we're talking about what's on the chart, it's not just what's on the chart, it's all your years of knowledge and experience plus your charting knowledge that comes in there to see whether, was the whole sector pulling back at the time?
And trading rules are probability at the end of the day. You're looking at probability. It doesn't mean that it has to unfold the way you want it to unfold, because you're thinking, oh, it looks good that there's an opportunity. So it's all about
always
probability.
Get a trigger on a stock. So, but great question, Chris, and keep ringing into the show, and good luck with your trading, and make sure you keep in touch with the team. But anyway, we need to move on. Remember to show your support for our channel and smash that like button. Next we have Heidi, who writes, I would love to know your thoughts on Wes. I originally purchased the stock late last year as a safe and steady plotter in my portfolio. Now, last week it showed a negative reaction by the market with a 5% pullback on reporting day. Whilst none of my rules have triggered yet, the stock has been accelerating away from its longer term momentum and would be due for a pullback at some stage. You have spoken of consumer discretionary as a sector to be one of the first sectors to pull back in a bull market. Whilst the sector may have more gains to be had, with Wes being outstanding over the last year, I'd love to have your view on where to from here.
Wesfarmers.
I know it's one of your favourite stocks. So
I mean, look, if the market's going up, Wesfarmers is more than likely going to go as well. And as far as just consumer discretionary is concerned, yes, we did say that sector is likely to turn before the market, and obviously Wesfarmers has a big, it's got a lot of consumer discretionary type stocks, and that was more an indicator of what slows down first. Consumer spending, people get a bit concerned at certain points in the economic cycle, but when you're looking at Wesfarmers as a stock as a whole, it's just about whether it's bullish or not. And right now it looks bullish and looks like it could continue to go higher, but you would just be watching for signals all the time to tell you one way or the other. So, if it falls below the 9th of August, that could be a warning sign. Looking at the trend lines, watching your rules. It's a whole confluence of rules and things that you're looking for that are going to tell you that direction one way or another.
But you can turn a 5% fall on an announcement
not for a stock like Wesfarmers, nothing.
It's
not with this volatility.
Not with this volatility. So I think you don't have to be too worried about it. It's just normal play for reporting season, I suppose. And if you've got good rules in place and you've got all those set for yourself before reporting season, I don't think you've got anything to worry about it. But anyway, let's move on. If you enjoy watching and you want to see loads more of our content, click subscribe now, because subscribing helps others find our channel so we can help them too. Now, before we let you go, what was your favourite part of the show? Was it Phil's hot stock tip? Our topic for the night, or was it a viewer question? Let us know by commenting below this video. Now, thanks to all those who are watching on YouTube and Facebook. If you are watching on talkingwealth.com, stay tuned for more exciting stock picks, insights and strategies. We'll be right back with that and more soon. Next week in our main topic, we get into whether it's time to buy cheap falling stocks to 10x your growth stock investments. Make sure you join us next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Time. Now, if you love our show, remember to hit that like button right now and subscribe to our channel, as this shows your support for the team that puts in the effort each and every week to bringing it to you. If you are subscribed, you'll always know when we go live and put up new content. As always, thank you for joining us. Goodbye, good luck and good trading.